All right, we're going to call this one How to Deal with Debt Collectors, but this is the Portnoy Law Association version. So here's how this stuff basically works. You get these townships and these boroughs. They can't collect the money themselves because they can't bring you in court under a valid cause of action. There's nothing they can file against you to bring you in actual court of law. So what they do is they turn these quote unquote debts, which are like could be trash fees, sewer fees, whatever they want to call them. They turn them over to these petty Fager law firms, and these scumbag dirtball attorneys will send you a letter saying, hey, you owe this money, blah blah blah, and it doesn't matter whether you respond back. And I've heard people say, oh, you asked them just to verify the debt. I've asked them to verify the debt, and they just ignore you. So that doesn't work. And what they generally do is they'll go into the local municipal court, and they'll file what's called a municipal lien against your property, which is about as illegal as you can get because it's a violation of due process of law. Pennsylvania violates Article 1, Section 1, Section 8, Section 11. So they're violating multiple state constitutional and actual federal constitution rights, secured rights. So that's how they work, basically. These little municipalities turn over these quote-unquote supposed debts that you owe them to these petty Fager attorney law firms who have no jurisdiction, no standing, and no personal knowledge of anything, and yet they file these fraudulent matters against you. So this is how my initial response was to this group from the Beverly Park. They handle their stuff. This is a group, this law firm's called the Portnoy Law Associates is the group. Now these are not the brightest, they're not the brightest bulbs in the drawer. They messed with me before, and I sent them affidavits, and they went away on that property. Never heard anything else on that property. But once you're in the system, the computer spits your name out, up you come. The next petty Fager in line at the law firm will take your document, and they'll move, not knowing anything that happened before, because I don't think one hand knows what the other hand's doing. So this is the initial response they got. And what I've started doing is I took advice from Brett Fountain. Listen, this stuff's a lot easier to fax to these people. So I signed up for a little fax service called eFax. You can get whichever one you want. But it's a lot easier to fax this stuff to them because you get confirmation. It's almost like certified mail. You have evidence that was delivered. And so here's a little fax cover sheet I did. That's the little petty Fager right there, David D. Dugan. And actually added a claim in here that I didn't put in here, but it's a bar grievance. It's a mail fraud report that I made, and also it's a warning for them to cease and desist. And so the first thing I did is I made a notice of claim against them. And so the petty Fager is David D. Dugan. And listen, if you want to mess with my property, you're going to try and toy around my property, I'm going to charge you full value. So that's when they send out their fees, their what they call them, fee schedules. Well, there's my fee schedule. You mess with my property, I charge you full value of the property. Whatever Zillow has it listed at, that's what I'm going to charge you right there. So first I sent him a notice of claim. I sent my affidavit of status because I want to remove all presumptions Mr. Dugan may have of who I am. And Mr. Dugan's done here. Mr. Dugan can't controvert this or respond to this. So I give him the affidavit of status. And here's the official Pennsylvania complaint form. It's a little weird. It's not as elaborate as like Texas is. The bar grievances are. So I just go through here and I put my information in there. I put Mr. Dugan's information in there. And you're never going to get what you need to put in this little box they give you. So I basically do attachments. And I tell them, listen, I'm going to send them the attorney complaint form, which is this. I'm going to send them a statement of complaint like they have there, but I'm doing it in much more detail, which you'll see that follows. And that's done by a declaration of fact, or you could do it by affidavit. To me, not everything's got to be done by affidavit. A declaration of facts is a pretty powerful statement too, because it's done under penalty of perjury. I'll cite actually the federal code for making a declaration of fact, and it actually has the weight of an affidavit. It's like you said, affidavits are still hearsay or out of court testimony, and so is a declaration of fact. But basically, it's you saying that, hey, listen, if push comes to shove, I'll come in and testify that everything on this document is true, and I'm willing to go to jail for everything I put on this document. So a declaration of facts is a pretty powerful statement. Now, this is my famous, what I like to call a notice of deficiencies and irregularities. This is what he sent to the court, these phony courts, I call them, these municipal courts that move under the rules of civil procedure. So he basically will create a lien out of thin air and send it to the court, and the court will issue a judgment in nobody's name. I mean, they'll do a judgment, nobody signed it. They'll sign it, it'll state Office of Judicial Support. Well, is that Mr. or Mrs. Office of Judicial Support? And in a recent matter, I actually pressed the clerk of the court for 5 days in a row, give me the name of the person who's responsible for this. That this judgment didn't get up and issue itself and jump in the mailing envelope and put a stamp on itself and mail itself. Who sent this to me? Who's making a claim that this is a valid judgment? And she wouldn't give me the name, so I was forced actually to just file a Pennsylvania right to know record request, saying, hey, you got to turn over the name to me. So we're in about day 2 right now. We'll see. It's supposed to be 5 days to respond. And a lot of times with these record requests, they'll ask for a 30-day extension. I don't know why you would need a 30-day extension to provide a name. There's no great research has to go into giving me a name. So when they show you they're afraid to give you a name, you're over the target basically, because she does not want to give me this name because she knows where this is going. I told her, I said, hey, listen, I got to be able to protect myself. I said, I got to file criminal complaints against this individual who did this. I said, I need the name. I said, who initiated this? And she went silent. So hopefully I'll get it from the record request. If not, it's going to wind up in court, and they're going to have a problem with it because what they're doing is, I mean, it's a total deprivation of rights under color of law. That's the way they work. So they're going to get that notice of deficiencies and irregularities, which that includes the document that he filed with the court. I said I'll circle or square it out, basically, whatever, each little block of information, and I'll number it. And then on a separate sheet, I'll state why it's fraud and why it's deficient or it's an irregularity. And because everything they do, they're filing suits in the name of a fiction, which is fraud. They're filing in rem proceedings, and this will throw a lot of people off. An in rem proceeding basically is an action against the property. That alone is a violation of your state and federal constitution rights. It's a violation of your due process rights. But even if they claim to file an in rem proceeding, which means an action against the property, you first have to have rights in the property to bring an in rem action. If you can't prove you have rights in the property, you can't bring an in rem action. But that's what these attorneys do. So you've got the attorney who's got no jurisdiction, no legal standing in the matter, no personal knowledge of anything in this matter, who's filing an in rem proceeding for a corporate fiction that doesn't exist. This is fraught with fraud. I mean, this is fraud as long as the day is, basically. This is what fraud is. So they're going to get that. And I'm also giving them a copy of a mail fraud report that I file. I actually want them to see what I'm doing, basically. I don't hide it from them. And even when I file the bar grievances against them and the criminal complaints, I will actually send it to the attorney. I don't hide it from him. I want him to know I did this to you. And if you think it's going to stop, you got another thing coming. I'm going to take you on a journey you're not going to believe by the time we're done. And I'm also going to include my affidavit of status in there, so it removes all presumptions of, if this guy's got presumptions that I'm some subject or some resident of the borough of Ridley Park, that's going to go up in smoke when he sees the affidavit of status. So this is just the paperwork that goes to the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania handles this. I know Texas is different, a lot of other states are different, but the Disciplinary Board of the Supreme Court handles this. So this is the form they got. And what I did is I took the statement of complaint. Like I said, I can't fit it in here. This is small. So I broke it out. I got his name, I got his bar number, and I basically state what he did. David D. Dugan committed numerous crimes, knowingly forged a lien against my property. Dugan violated Rule 8.4 misconduct, and it states 8.4, it's a professional misconduct for a lawyer to commit a criminal act that reflects adversely on the lawyer's honesty, trustworthiness, or fitness as a lawyer in other respects. Well, he committed numerous state criminal acts and federal criminal acts, and I'll actually allude to them right in here. I'll give them like a rack to hang their hat on, because guess what? These criminal complaints I have here, I gave Mr. Dugan and his little law firm there 24 hours to get their stuff in order, or I'm going to start filing state and federal criminal complaints, and this is going to turn into what you call a shit show for Mr. Dugan. So this is basically, I'm going to put this document up on the website. It's going to go under the how to deal with debt collectors document. It's going to be under David Dugan, Portnoy Law Associates. It's going to say that's going to be the title of the document. So all these documents that I have here are going to be there. But this is just basically an extension of the form because I can't fit it in here. So you're going to see everything I filed against him, the actual bar grievance. And I always sign them. I always sign them under penalty of perjury. Gives them weight. Listen, if you're not willing to give me, you're not willing to meet me face to face and give me something signed under penalty of perjury, well, then you really have no standing in this matter because you've got no conviction. There's no conviction to your words or what you're going to do. So everything I do is I sign under penalty of perjury. And real easy thing to start doing, sign a document, put your thumbprint on it, and do a scan of it. And so when you do your documents, you could actually import it as a graphic and put it over where your name is. So instead of having to sign every document and do the thumbprint over top of it, just do it once and make a graphic of it and import it to any document you need a signature on. So this is what he filed with the court. Now look at the header. He's got it under Portnoy Law Associates. I got no contract with these people. I don't know who these people are. And what these people are factually doing is they're administering my property without rights. They're claiming they're administering my property for the Borough of Ridley Park. But the Borough of Ridley Park can't put a document up to state that they have any rights in my property. Which this is where it's going to go real bad for Mr. David D. Dugan. So I got his attorney ID right there. And I start taking this apart. Everything, like I said, I hit every element on here that's fraud. This is all fraud. I basically box it out. And then I'll come down here and I will do a notice of deficiencies and irregularities in David D. Dugan's pleading. Because this is called a pleading. This is what attorneys do. They submit a pleading to the court. So I'm going to take each number there that I numbered and I'm going to tell you why it's fraud. Like I said, this document's going to be up on the website. So I got that in there, and then I moved down to, here's the actual mail fraud complaint. And when you look at my document back here, the one I submitted to the Bar Association, I actually state the crimes he committed, and there's 3 federal mail statutes in there that I cite. So this is why I actually include the mail fraud complaint with the bar grievance, to let them know, hey, this guy's actually committing crimes. He committed 3 mail fraud crimes right here under these statutes. And look, hey, I'm not messing around with you people. I actually filed a mail fraud complaint against him. I'm moving this along. I'm not sort of or maybe going to file a mail fraud complaint against them. No, I filed a mail fraud complaint against them. So I show it to them right here. Here's the mail fraud complaint. And it's always usually in the matter of your estate. Because that's what they're doing. They're attacking your estate. They're attacking your estate's your property. And anything attached to your name is your estate. So when they're coming after you for some bogus tax or whatever, that's basically attached to your estate. So I generally tick off estate. And I'll stay right there. David D. Dugan created a forged and falsified documents he used to threaten I am man in the attempt to extort money from me in violation of 18 U.S. Codes 1342, fictitious name or address, because everything he sent it in is a fiction. He's working from the Borough of Ridley Park. That's a fiction. Frauds and swindles, you should read these because they meet him to the T. And he's also mailing threatening communications. It's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to extort money from you through the United States Postal Service. So they get a copy of that. And I also give him a copy of the envelopes. Because I mean, I don't understand this postal stuff on there. They ask you for meter numbers and whatever. And there's Pitney Bowes and other places, these other mail places, and they all have their own little numbers. And I'm no expert. I can't decode their mail code. So I generally just make copies of it, and I tell them on there to, you'll see I say, like, permit number, permit city, permit state, see attached, see attached, see attached, see attached. Whatever this envelope tells them, I just include the envelope with them. So basically, this is the initial salvo against David D. Dugan. All right, so he's getting hit with a lot here. He got hit with a notice of claim for the full value of the house. He got hit with a bar grievance. Okay, so the bar grievance, like I said, I'm probably going to get a letter from his buddies telling me I wasted my time. That that there's nothing there. It's frivolous, my claims. But I know that his insurance policy states that when he gets a bar grievance filed against him, he's got to notify that insurance company. That's going to ring his insurance bell. So right off the bat, I've rung Mr. Dugan's insurance bell. And also the when I broke it out as far as the, where's it at here? When I expanded on what he did here, there's a lot of bad stuff in here for him. And one of the main things which a lot of people are missing, and this is it's one of those things that's hidden in plain sight, is these pettifogger shyster attorneys are actually filing suits in administrative courts, which is a violation of your constitutionally protected rights. If it's a criminal act, they're violating Amendment 6 of the Constitution. If it's a civil action, which this is, he's violating Amendment 7 of the Constitution. And he's violating your due process rights. So if you go in and read this stuff, there's some, I think there's some pretty potent stuff in here, and I even attack the rules of civil procedure. Because the way these courts work is when the pettifogger shyster files his claim, and he'll do it under the Municipal Tax Lien Act, which has got nothing to do with you. The pettifogger shysters at the court, the municipal court, will take it, and they can't move under valid legal process. So what they'll do is they will cite the rules of civil procedure, and they'll state, pursuant to rule of civil procedure in Pennsylvania, it's 236. So this is why they're making this judgment against you based on rule of civil procedure 236. That has nothing to do with you and me, but they just make the presumption that it does. Because the rules of civil procedure were written by the Legal Society, okay, which Mr. Dugan's a member of. I'm not a member of the Legal Society. The Legal Society doesn't get to make rules on how other people interact with me. The rules for how other people interact with me, that's called the state constitution and the federal constitution. And if you're aware of the Supremacy Clause, Article 6, Clause 2, the federal constitution is the supreme law of the land for these people. And anything that's in conflict with that federal constitution is notwithstanding. So Mr. Dugan's action of running to a municipal court, creating a lien, forging a lien out of thin air, is notwithstanding, because it's in total violation of numerous constitutionally protected rights in the both federal and state constitution. Remember, federal trumps state, state trumps all laws, and what these guys are doing, these are administrative courts that they're trying to move through. And if you read the, I have it in, I know I have it broken out. You're going to see that basically, I'll state that this is not a court of record. How Mr. Dugan's operating, he's not moving under a court of record, and that's your right to a common law court. Because read Amendment number 7 in suits of common law $20 or more. You have a right to an Article 3 court at all times. And these people, what they're doing is they're tricking you to come into these, I call them Article 1 courts. These are courts created by Congress, okay? These are administrative courts. So unless you're a member of that administration, you have no right being in that court. And that's one of the ways I stay out of their courts, is I state, hey, you don't meet the elements. It states every court of Pennsylvania is a court of record that proceeds according to the common law. I'm looking at the way your court's structured. You're not a court of record proceeding according to common law, so you must be a foreign jurisdiction to Pennsylvania. So I have no intention of coming into your court, because if I did come into your court, I would be waiving my constitutionally protected rights. And oh, by the way, I would be contributing to crimes you've already committed against me. And you'll notice in here, I actually go through and state the state criminal crimes I'm going to file against him, and the federal crimes I'm going to file against him. And I actually have some of them already filled out. So this is some bad stuff from Mr. Dugan. And this is how lawyers disappear. And, they disappear from law firms, or they go silent. Because when push comes to shove, and actually bring this in the federal district court under Title 42, Section 1983, deprivation of rights under color of law and for simulation of a legal process, because that's what this is. This is a simulation of a legal process. The real legal process is if somebody's got a problem with you, basically, if you've defaulted on a contract or an obligation you had with them, they've got to sue you, okay? And they've got to file a complaint and create a summons to have you summons to court, and the clerk will stamp it, and then you've got to go get a process server to serve your complaint with a copy of the summons attached to whoever you're filing this against. And so that you have That's called due process. You have a notice and opportunity to defend yourself. Well, this is not a notice and opportunity to defend myself because Mr. Dugan runs into court and gets a judgment without any due process. And not only does the judgment not have a name on it, imagine that they're issuing judgments with no names. When I asked the clerk, I said, well, who exactly issued this judgment? She actually told me the office. And I said, is that Mr. or Mrs. Office that issued that? Because offices don't issue documents. Men and women working in the office issue the documents. That means somebody's got to be personally responsible and liable for the document. Who is liable for this document? And like I said, she went silent. So you know you're over the target when you're getting flack like that, like when they don't want to respond. Because if this was, listen, if this was done all above board, this stuff, everything's legal what they're doing, she'd happily provide me the name. Oh, Mr. Fadzol, you're mistaken in your conclusions. Listen, we have this right to do this to you. And listen, here's the name of the man or woman who did this to you. They have every right to do this. When they run from you and they won't give you names, you know you have them. So this is the first salvo you're seeing here. And then the next stage, I gave him 24 hours. I told him, hey, listen, you guys better back off real quick or I'm going to start filing state and federal criminal complaints. And when I start filing them, they're going to be like paper cuts because I'm going to file one at a time. One state criminal complaint at a time I'm going to file. And each state has different procedures on who you file that with. I think in Pennsylvania, you file it with the Attorney General, the head Attorney General. In Texas, I believe you file it with the District Attorney. So you got to find out your state, the process. You don't file criminal complaints with the police. Don't waste your time by doing that. You file criminal complaints with whatever the legal process is in your state, who gets those complaints. And when you file those criminal complaints, you request that, hey, I need you to turn this over to the grand jury. And like I learned to use the envelope thing to the grand jury by saying, hey, Mr. Grand Jury, I need you to initial this and send the envelope back to me. And Brett actually stated in a recent post, said, I think you're better with a postcard because it's easier to drop a postcard in the mail. And he actually stated he did get one postcard back one time from a grand juror. So that's what you really want to do is you want to include a postcard to the grand juror and say, hey, Mr. Grand Juror, I just need you to return this postcard back to me once the district attorney or the attorney general turn my complaints over to you so that I know you, the grand jury foreman, has gotten my complaints. Because if they don't turn your complaints over, well, now you got a problem with the district attorney or the attorney general for not turning over your criminal complaints to the proper quote-unquote authorities, which is the grand jury. So listen, they're always going to try and protect their buddies. So anything you could throw in their way that's a roadblock, like saying, hey, I've included a postcard in here. I just need Mr. Grand Jury Foreman to drop this in the mail to me just to let me know he got my criminal complaints. Well, now the district attorneys will notice that you're sort of paying attention to what's going on here and you're trying to track it. Same thing with the attorney general. So this is the first salvo. Next one will be filing actual state criminal complaints and then federal criminal complaints. And if need be, I will bring them in federal district court under Title 42, Section 1983. And it's really not that complicated. Listen, go up on your local federal district websites. And I hate the term pro se, but that's how they have it listed. You want to download the pro se document that states how to file, a Title 42, 1983, or how to file civil rights, they call it action. And don't get hung up with the term civil rights and blah, blah, blah. Oh, the civil rights are... Listen, I know guys that got millions of dollars of settlements doing this. Don't worry, don't get hung up on these terms and languages. If you want to get paid, this is what you have to do. So this is just the first salvo. This is actually already underway. And what I did is I faxed this to Mr. Dugan. I wanted in the law firm. I wanted him to see that. And what's next is going to be, this is a little law firm debt collection agency. So there's only one president. I think her name is Michelle Portnoff. She must be the owner of the law firm. So tomorrow, Miss Portnoff, and you're going to see it here. I'm going to get it written up tonight. I'm going to file a bar grievance against Michelle Portnoff because she's responsible for this pettifogger shyster. This is her responsibility to make sure this guy doesn't commit crimes. And this guy committed numerous crimes. You're going to see in my documentation. So I'm going to take Miss Portnoff for a little journey too. And that's what you do with these bar grievances. You don't only hit the attorney, you hit all the partners in the law firm. Because these partners do not want bar grievances filed against them. And if you don't think bar grievances count, when Ryan was getting his case resolved, where they dropped $4,000 in fines and a bunch of charges, and he told the attorney, "Hey, listen, I'm going to make you an offer. Drop this thing, and I'll leave you out of the lawsuit. Else, I'm going to start filing bar grievances against you." And he actually mocked Ryan and said, "Oh, I'm not worried about bar grievances. I get bar grievances filed all the time," which is a lie, because 2 days later, Mr. Attorney dropped everything in that case. The fine, all charges, all gone. Listen, these bar grievances are lethal. Don't get like I had a guy do this from the Telegram group, and he got a response back from the bar, and it basically told him he wasted his time for filing this, and he was sort of down. And I said, "No, you got the standard response letter back. That's what they give you. You've wasted your time." What they're not telling you is that attorney had to tell the insurance company, so you did ring the insurance bell. And when you file the notice of claim like I did in here, that's also going to ring his insurance bell, because in their insurance policies, anything that could possibly lead to litigation against the attorney, they've got to notify the insurance company. This is a potential lawsuit lining up. If he doesn't notify them that I filed this $200 and something thousand claim against him, and I turn around and sue him, which I will do, they can then step in and go, "Hey, this guy's sending you friggin' declarations, affidavits, and he's telling you he's going to sue you. You never told us. We're not going to cover you." So he's got to tell them. And when he's getting the bar grievance filed against him, and now the notice of claim, which has a financial component to it, this is going to send his rates up. So now I got Mr. David Dugan's attention after this filing. So I faxed it to Mr. David D. Dugan, and I actually faxed it to the judicial board. And listen, I love this e-fax stuff, because it's such a pain in the ass to have to basically print stuff out and, mail it. And this, you get a confirmation back. It takes a few minutes, whatever. It might take 10 minutes to go through, but you're going to get a confirmation back, and you could track everything right in the software of what you sent and when it was delivered. So these pettifoggers shysters have no excuse that they didn't get your documents. So that's pretty much it, stage one. I just wanted to show you this stuff in real time. So I'm going to put the document up under on the website under the document section. So if anyone you're having trouble with debt collectors, come take a look and come download the documents and use them to your advantage. Well, take care for now. And like I said, don't let these people get you down. They are not who they tell you they are. They don't have the authority over you that they claim they do. Take care.